Okay, well, good morning and welcome to the Isle of Skye and Raasay Area Committee on Monday, the 17th of February, 2025. Alistair, have we got any apologies for absence?
No apologies, Chair, no.
Okay, any declarations of interest or transparency statement?
I have received one, Chair, please bear with me. Councillor Munro wishes to make a transparency statement in relation to item 8 on the agenda, as he has a close family member who works part-time in Portree High School Associated School Group Schools, and he also has children who attend schools in the Portree ASG. So, however, having applied the objective test, he does not consider that he has an interest to declare.
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of the minutes of the last area committee, they're for noting. And before we go on with the agenda, just to update members that we'll not be taking item 12 today, as the member who was going to present is unfortunately not well, so we'll take it at the next area committee. Okay, so moving on to our first substantive item, a Scottish Fire and Rescue Local Committee Performance Report. I'm delighted to welcome Stuart to committee, so I'll hand over to you, Stuart.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, councillors. How are you this morning? I'll start off. I'll just get straight into the summary of it. So the main areas from April 1st to end of September 2024. I'll provide a summary of it for quarter 1 and 2. So there was 4 accidental dwelling fires, which in line with the 3-year average, majority were classed as low severity, requiring little or no intervention from the service and minimal fire damage. There was no casualties with these type of incidents, and all were offered post-incident support in the form of home fire safety, and partnership referrals were required. There was 5 deliberate fires. None were primary fires, and the 5 deliberate fires were secondary fires. Referrals were made to appropriate agencies for those that work within our communities. There was 1 non-domestic building fire, which again is below the average. Service attended 7 road traffic collisions, slightly above average. There was no casualties, or sorry, correction, no RTC fatalities, but there was 3 RTC related injuries. 1 went to hospital, but with slight injuries, more a precaution, and our prevention teams are working with other partnership agencies throughout the Highland safety group, road safety group. There's also the older drivers virtual reality scheme and road safety scheme for new drivers as well. So there's lots of prevention work going on there. Unwanted fire alarm signals, we attended 16, showing a vast decrease since we implemented the new procedure back in July 2023. We've stopped attending AFA call-outs to commercial businesses and workplace premises. These are such as factories, offices, shops and leisure facilities, unless a fire has been confirmed. Our control rooms, they will now ask anyone who reports a fire alarm to check whether there's an actual fire or signs of fire. So there's more interrogation behind the call now before sending the nearest appliance. This does not apply to sleeping risks such as hospitals, care homes, hotels, or domestic dwellings who will receive the full predetermined attendance. The community safety advocates and station personnel, they completed 57 home fire safety visits, and these were, the majority of these were targeted at the most vulnerable in our community. And that is the summary of our incidents in the area.
Okay, thank you very much, Stuart. Okay, we'll go to members to see if there are any questions or observations. Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Morning, Stuart. Thanks for the
Good morning.
Summary there. Just a couple of questions, just in terms of staffing and availability, particularly in the North End. I wonder if you've got anything you can update on, particularly in terms of staffing. And also, I know we'll be discussing Portree Station, but anything in connection with UIG since our last time at Area Committee. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. So just to
Stuart,
confirm, the first.
what I'll do, Stuart, is I'll go to Drew and then you can answer both members. Okay,
sorry.
Drew.
Okay. Good morning, Stuart. Thanks again for your report. Nice to see one concentrated in our area. I suppose really, just what Councillor Monroe said there about recruitment would be useful. How it's continuing to try to attract, and leads me on to maybe a question: have you got any plans for more of these the skill days you have with young people? I think they've been a success so far, and just wondered if you've had any sort of positivity in terms of recruitment regarding that. I attended a tenants tenants meeting at the Knackershead, and I was quite impressed with one of your fire officers, Ian Matheson, who spoke to the tenants that were present just about the fire safety. And I just wondered, I know you mentioned it in your report, but just do you go to other places like kind of Drogheda in Portree or Shirley Shadder-Bake in Portree, where there are lots of people who may be not so involved in even though they've got a person looking after them, they maybe don't quite get the contact and know what things they should do and what shouldn't do, because I certainly got my eyes opened on one or two things that Ian mentioned to the tenants in the Knackershead. I immediately came home and thought I better check this myself. So and the last bullet point I was going to say really was maybe you could give us an update on the future of the location of Portree Fire Station. Thank you. Thanks, Chairman.
Okay, over to you, Stuart, to answer these questions.
Okay, the first one, just to clarify there, Colin, you just mentioned it's, first of all, just tying in with what Drew said, it's about the recruitment in the area. So on-call support, Ian Nicholson's working hard to look at alternative ways to attract candidates, certainly in the Skye area. We completed a recruitment. We're trying to kind of tap into different areas. Ideal world would have events on all the time, would be out in the community, asking people direct. So, for example, the most recent one I was involved in was up at Portree High School. We had a ladies' shinty, had a discussion around recruitment for the area and looked to see if there was anyone interested in joining the on-call. So there's ongoing things behind the scenes, and we are working hard to promote it and be proactive around it. We have several people in the recruitment process at the moment, so hopefully they will successfully get through the process and join their local stations. So it is a challenge, but we are looking at alternative kind of methods, solutions to try and improve it in the area. And yeah, we're just working hard behind the scenes to try and improve it and get the establishments up. In regards to availability, our availability figures, which I have here for the quarter. So Portree and Raasay, really high availability through this period, 97% and 90% for the areas, for the two areas. Broadford, Dunvegan and Uig, half that availability, around about 50%, but these stations are operating also with a joint mobilisation procedure. So a lot of that information is not captured to provide this accurate data. So on paper, it looks lower, obviously, to the hub station, the Portree, but with the joint mobilisation procedure, it does ensure you that we are getting a response in our local communities to respond to fire calls. And other part, Drew, you mentioned about the fire skills. So yeah, last year was up at Broadford for the fire skills course, and yourself, Drew, was in attendance there. It's been a success, and it's been noted across the whole of the Highlands. So there's other areas that are a way to run courses. I think Thurso, I'll pull off the top of my head, are possibly looking at running courses. And we will get our opportunity again to run one. I will touch base with Roddy McLeod, who kind of runs them for the area, and see if there's an opportunity for having a local course in 2025. But there's a lot of demand for it. So again, we will always encourage fire skills courses in the area. And just to add to that, again, you mentioned about the success of the course. We have one applicant at the moment in our process that actually went through the fire skills course a couple of years ago. So that's great to know that they've followed suit and are going through a recruitment process right now. So that's fantastic. I'll move on to satisfied with those parts about recruitment and availability. Is that okay? Is there anything else you need clarified with those items? No. Moving on to the community safety. The community safety advocate, Ian Matheson. Yeah, he will be out in the area and he will be looking at the areas he feels is relevant to capture the highest risk in our communities. So in regards to him delivering talks out in the area, that's fantastic, and he will continue to offer that if there's a demand there. Certainly from my experience in it, I can safely say that a lot of the work behind the scenes that the CSAs will do, they will work with partnership agencies to inform them of the kind of things to look for when they're maybe out, for example, home carers and things. Look at things that might be, at risk in the home for these individuals that they're caring for. And what they will do is they should be versed to put in a referral that the service will receive, and we have got a timescale to then go and contact these homeowners to offer them the home fire safety and complete it, and inevitably lower the risk within their home. So there's lots of good activity behind the scenes that Ian and his team are doing in the area. So there's certainly reassure you there's plenty of activity when it comes to community safety in the area. And the third item in regards to the Portree new build. So we are working, was up in the area last week with Group Commander Collier, and at this moment in time we are looking at it's still in progress, the potential site that's been identified. So there's plans potentially been drawn up or amended to potentially look at this new site. That's as much as I know at this moment. They're working hard with obviously the area that has the piece of land, and hopefully we'll get some good news very soon. And this will be looking to be progressed into the next financial year, hopefully. But that's as much as I know at this moment in time. Okay, and I think Callum asked about UIG as well, Stuart. Yeah. Okay, so in regards to UIG, the two stations, obviously this new builds, etc., are closely linked. Portree will obviously go first, and UIG will follow that. So at the moment we are looking. We're aware of the current arrangement with UIG station, and we are looking at alternatives as an interim solution until that new build is complete. We have options, but at the moment it's with the service deciding on which option is the most suitable as an interim solution. So again, I will update you when that is confirmed. Okay, thank you. And I've just got one question, Stuart. It's around about the availability and the joint mobilisation data. Yes. You said that wasn't available, so it may be quite good next time round to have that available so we can understand what that looks like. And I presume by joint mobilisation you mean Broadford and Kyle teaming up. Is that the case? Broadford, Kyle, predominantly the joint mobilisation procedure extends to Portree and Dunvegan. It's still a pilot scheme, but it does extend to if two areas are off the run or showing on our Garton system that they are off the run, then there's certain criteria that must be met before the two stations identified can mobilise to the operational incident, a designated rendezvous point, and then they will meet and then continue to proceed to that operational incident. So it's been a success since it's been implemented, and yeah, it's assisting at the moment with certainly the challenges around recruitment. So for me, it's a reassurance that within your communities you are getting a response.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so it'd be quite good to, maybe hear something about that in particular at our next time you come to area committee. Councillor Muller?
Yeah, thanks. Just following on what John said there, does that also include, say, people who are going to be working in a particular area for a particular length of time? Can they sort of automatically put themselves forward to volunteer for a call out to the nearest station?
Yes, so what happens at the moment, we've got the joint mobilisation procedure, we've also got the import procedure as well. So, for example, we have an individual who Monday to Friday imports into Kyle station. So his assigned station is Broadford, but he works 9 to 5 in Kyle. So he provides that cover in the Kyle area and vice versa. If, for example, Broadford are short of crewing, the on-call supports, Ian and Andrew in the Kyle, will work together to improve that availability in either Broadford or Kyle, depending on what the skill set is they need. Those two individuals can move about as well and cover gaps in the area. So although we've got the joint mobilisation, we do have that import procedure as well, which again is successful as well. So we can have people import into another station to help support that station. Other option we've got as well is we sometimes, if there's positive work to be undertaken as well, we will offer that out to the staff in the area, and they will come into the required station and they will carry out, like operational testing equipment or completing their TFOC or such like their training. So there's lots of options other than just seeing the station looking like it's off the run. We will try and improve that and get it back on the run for that area.
Okay, Stuart. Well, can I thank you once again for coming to area committee, and we'll see you again in the future, and have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye now.
Okay, members, we're moving on to agenda item number 4, the National Islands Plan, and I'm delighted to welcome Francesco and Angus to committee. So this is about the new National Islands Plan, which I'm sure we're all interested in. So I'll go to you first, Francesco, and then Angus can come in as required.
Councillor, thank you. Great to see you again. Happy New Year. It's a bit late, but never miss an opportunity. Angus, I don't know if there is anything that you would like to share before I give my wish spiel.
Yeah, I think if I can very briefly just give a bit of context around this, you'll recall that Francesco spoke at the area business meeting in early November. And I think at that time, Chair, you made a decision that it's probably best to come to the February committee so that the wider public get an opportunity to sense the direction of travel. And so that's obviously why Francesco's here today. It is about the revised National Islands Plan, and just to give a bit more wider context, I know that Francesco and his team have been speaking to other Highland Council areas that have islands, and there's 2 others that exist within our region. And as a result of that, we've also got a plan to meet with the Gaelic Committee, I think, in June. So that's the sort of just a bit of context around it. So without further ado, I'll hand you back over to Francesco.
Angus, thank you very much. I'm conscious that most of you heard my spiel back in November, so I don't want to duplicate too much what you heard back then. So I'll be kind of quickly, again, providing an overview of the story so far, but I would like to use most of my time with you today to focus on where we are now and get your feedback on the current direction of travel. So if technology assists, I'll be sharing a few slides with you today. So while this uploads, as you know, and as Angus mentioned, we are looking at a refreshed and reviewed National Islands Plan, which kind of gives away the fact that Scotland and the Scottish Government have got a National Islands Plan already. It was published back in December 2019, and we never tire of underlining that it is a statutory document. It is one of the provisions of the Island Scotland Act 2018. which is also the same piece of legislation that introduced island communities impact assessments, which I'm sure you will be familiar with. The current plan is admittedly quite broad. It features 13 strategic objectives and over 130 commitments. Ministers are required to report to Parliament every year to set out what progress has been made in terms of pursuing those objectives. So my team and I are just in the process of finalising the 2024 annual report, and it is, quite frankly, a big undertaking every year. While it is quite a diverse document and there is a lot in it, the overarching objective is mandated by the Islands Act, and it is that of improving outcomes for island communities. So that will remain the case under any new iteration of the plan. On the right-hand side here, you can see a brief overview of the current content. Again, quite comprehensive. It goes from transport and housing, perhaps the usual suspects, to arts, culture and language, health, social care. You have a bit of empowering communities there, fuel poverty, and so on and so forth. So back in 2019, the approach taken was one where the National Islands Plan was used to provide an overview of everything that the Scottish Government was doing or planning on doing in support of island communities. And the result is, again, that of having 13 strategic objectives and 130 commitments. It is important, however, to note that the plan was informed by substantial engagement with island communities, with 40 islands visited by my predecessors at the time. So it wasn't entirely a decision that, or a desk-based decision, let's say, that the Scottish Government made. What the Act also requires Scottish ministers to do is carrying out a review of the plan within 5 years of its publication. And that is precisely what happened at the end of 2023, where there was a public consultation to inform that review. There was an online component. And again, our thanks to the Highland Council for putting a response in. We also carried out workshops, both in person and online. The key themes, you can see them on this slide here. First of all, there was a lack of understanding of what the National Islands Plan sought to achieve, and a lack of awareness of the National Islands Plan more broadly. So this is definitely something that we are hoping to address under the second iteration. There were mixed views about its impact and effectiveness. Has it really made a difference? What was clear, however, is that for a majority of respondents, there has been limited or no progress in relation to 11 of the 13 strategic objectives. The two exceptions are digital connectivity and arts, culture and languages. And around those two strategic objectives, respondents felt that some progress has been made. There was quite clear consensus among respondents that a new plan is required, but we were also encouraged to think about prioritising commitments and strategic objectives with a view to having a more focused and agile plan. And I'll be elaborating on that a wee bit. This is a slide that I don't want to spend too much time on, but we do feel that lack of awareness about the National Islands Plan does stretch to include what has been done to deliver on the objectives and the letter of the document. So we do like to highlight the work has been done through the Islands Programme, which supports critical island infrastructure, and the Highland Council has been quite successful in applying for funding through the Islands Programme, receiving over £2 million to date. That includes projects such as the Old Man of Store Centre and the development of staff in Harbour, and those 2 projects have been supported in 24-25, for instance. We are also quite proud of the Highland Coast Crisis Emergency Fund, which provides funding to Highland local authorities to support vulnerable Highland households. So it has distributed 3.4 million since December 2022, 1 million in 24-25, and it is a PFG, a Programme for Government Commitment, to continue delivering the Highland Coast Crisis Emergency Fund. So we are hopeful it will continue in 25-26. Another thing I briefly covered during these presentations is the Scottish Highland Survey, which is, however, quite important in kind of informing our thinking. So in 2023, we carried out the second iteration of the survey. The first one was carried out in 2020. So we are now in a position to identify some trends and carry out some comparisons. There were some good news, including in terms of digital connectivity, business growth, and young people's willingness to remain on their islands. But in the main, what the survey found compared to 2020 is a decline in perceptions of island life. And we are very, very conscious, acutely aware of all this. It is really kind of in the background as we develop a new National Islands Plan. So having reflected on all this, we have agreed with ministers a few key principles that are guiding the development of the new plan. First of all, we have been told the new plan is to be more agile, fewer strategic objectives, fewer commitments, but more focused, and focused on things that would not happen without the National Islands Plan. So additionality is one of the key principles. We've been told that we shouldn't simply summarize what has been already committed, introduced elsewhere. That should perhaps be kind of reflected upon. Interdependencies should be highlighted, but insofar as the actions are concerned, those should be new and go above and beyond what's already out there. Those commitments should be as much as possible tangible and measurable. Again, we can maybe have a chat about the challenges around that, the measurable bit, not so much the tangible component. We have been invited to put further thinking into connecting national and local. So the National Islands Plan will do what it says on the tin. It is national in nature and remit, but we have to make sure that the actions are relatable, and also in terms of delivery, they dovetail with what's already out there. So there is a lot of work that we are carrying out with island local authorities and communities to make sure that, again, we are not duplicating effort and we are building on what's already available. And then a clear allocation of responsibilities. Who's going to do this? So that applies both externally, is it the Scottish Government, is it local authorities, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, other agencies, and internally. Within the Scottish Government, is it the Islands team? Is it Transport Scotland? Is it housing? So again, making sure that we know whose responsibility it is to take these commitments forward. This, I think, is where we stopped back in November, but there may have been some progress since. So a few of the things that you will see in this and the next slide are set in stone. These are slides that we use to engage with stakeholders such as yourself and communities and get feedback. So it is a slide that is constantly morphing, evolving, and changing. One decision has, however, been made, and is that of having population retention and attraction as the key and overarching theme for the new National Islands Plan. It is something that we have received quite warm feedback about so far, so no strong concerns in that respect. Population growth is one of the 13 strategic objectives at the moment, so we are proposing elevating that strategic objective to become the key and overarching theme, topic, and goal for the new iteration of the plan. This worked quite well with communities on Skye and Raasay back in November, but the order there of retention and attraction is not casual. We were told that in the first instance, the focus should be on retaining people, on making sure that the infrastructure, the services are there for people to stay if they want to. And only in a second phase should we focus on attraction. And when we do so, the focus should be primarily on working age population. So that is something that we will capture in the plan, the narrative surrounding the plan. Community wealth building is the proposed approach in terms of delivering the National Islands Plan, so a lot of work with communities, with local authorities. It sounds grandiose, but in the main it's something that island communities are doing very well already. So it is a case of building capacity. We have been told very well. Community wealth building does work, everyone seems to be on board, but it is important that community organizations have got the capacity required to deliver all this on their islands. I will not be mentioning all the strategic objectives here, but you can see 6 different areas. So we are essentially proposing to cut the number of strategic objectives from 13 down to 7. It was actually 6 until last week, but then we felt that having housing and social justice under the same pillar wasn't really working. There was too much going on in those 2 areas. My final slide, but the most important one, and I hope you feel that this shows that there has been some progress, if nothing else, in our thinking since we last convened in November. This is the proposed content of the National Islands Plan at present. I'm conscious that I'm throwing a lot of information at you. It is quite dense as a slide, but I'll be sharing this, of course, after the meeting. And I would encourage you to send us any feedback that you may have, any questions, any comments that may arise after my presentation today. So as you can see, 7 different areas. I would really welcome your views on this, but at the moment, we are not thinking of prioritizing really one strategic objective over another. We do know that there are some areas that come up very frequently, in fact, all the time, things such as housing, transport, access to health are very important. We are out and about. I'm going out to some Argyll Isles later this week, and we will try to cover all island local authorities between now and early summer. And those are areas that are constantly brought to our attention. But the key point here is that of recognizing that every single island is different, and even within every island, communities can be different. So prioritizing things may not be completely appropriate. Every island have their own mix of opportunities, of challenges, of needs. So we do know that there is some consistency across the board and across areas, but the kind of the acuteness, the priorities may be different. So we want to capture all key things, perhaps not to the point of saying, well, this is important for everyone and this is the priority for everyone. I think the recipe should be decided locally, if that makes sense. I will not kind of ramble on for much longer, but again, we are very keen to put this out there and get feedback. It is constantly changing, as I was saying. We feel that most things are captured. We are trying to strike the right balance between being representative of how communities feel and what they believe should feature in the plan, and delivering on that more focused, more agile, more targeted document that we've been asked to develop. So we do hope, at a time when budgets are under pressure and there is, quite frankly, a lack of capacity across the organization, we do hope to produce something that is kind of relatable and communities, local authorities feel addresses their hopes, concerns, ambitions. I'll stop there, but I'll leave the slide on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Francesco. I think that was, I found that really interesting after the introduction we had in November. So, I'll maybe go first with a couple of comments. So it's good to see that you are reporting back to the Scottish Government on an annual basis. But in terms of the evaluation of the previous plan, I was interested to see that no progress has been made by most strategic objectives. So I think you've recognised that in terms of changing your objectives and now reducing them from 3 down to 6. So I suppose my question is probably more for Angus than maybe you, Francesco, would say, okay, so we've got this revised plan that's in the making. How are the council prioritising the delivery of whatever comes at the end of the consultation process? I see that we are including Island's impact assessments in the work that we're doing. But that's not really, for me, being proactive enough in driving forward the plan. So I suppose, Angus, it's time to understand, where does that lie? I'm assuming when you look at the objectives, they cover all the strategic committees, so you can't really just take them to one. I think you would be needing to take them to them all. And I think there's also needs to be more national recognitions about the importance of this plan. Since 2019, I've raised it so many times in different forums, but the knowledge that people had in terms of what the plan was trying to drive forward and support was pretty negligible, unfortunately. So, and again, when I'm talking about who I was engaging with, a lot of it was maybe to do with funding for projects in the islands, a recognition that, you know, island life is different and we need additionality, which I'm delighted to see is now a priority in the next plan. So it's really understanding, okay, where do we go next with this in terms of the Highland Council driving this forward and really engaging with the communities that are island communities.
Councillor, if I may, and then Angus may have further thoughts. I think that is a very, very good question. So I'm actually looking to develop some sort of infographic to try and communicate to an audience how this plan will work with local plans, how it dovetails with what local authorities are doing. I'll be dropping you an email, Angus, about perhaps the interplay between the National Islands Plan, local outcomes improvement plans, and local place plans. It's not so much of a hierarchy, but there could be a flow, a two-way flow between all this. I just want to make sure that what I'm proposing works for all island local authorities. I've been getting some good feedback so far, but I'll drop you an email to see whether for kind of Highland Council purposes or structures of way of working, that would be appropriate. It would be quite good to have your feedback. And I'm also hoping that local authorities, your leader, or whoever you decide is best placed to do so, could write a wee paragraph box where you explain precisely what Councillor Finlayson touched upon. How do you feel this will be taken forward locally? How will we, as Highland Council and Scottish Government, work together insofar as your islands are concerned to make sure that what the National Islands Plan proposes is then turned into tangible action locally?
Okay, what I'll do before we come back to you, Angus, I'll go to Councillor Miller and Councillor Munro, then we'll come back to you. Drew?
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much for that presentation, and I'm glad that you said you would share it following this meeting, because I think it'd be very useful for looking back at things. So I'm just going to be a wee bit sort of rambling here, so I hope you don't mind, but just looking at the community wealth building, I suppose, if I start, I mean, it's quite a wide headline, really, and it ties in with fuel poverty, I suppose, as well. I mean, as part of the Island Plan and the Island Act, you know, many people around the Highlands feel that the Scottish Government should be taking more of a hard line, for example, on fuel poverty. For example, there are no, well, our communities are relying on the generosity of multinational companies involved in green energy to drop a little coloured bead now and again to the community, rather than the government making the contributions from wind farms, especially, and offshore and onshore wind farms. The strong feeling is that they should make these contributions to the community mandatory. They should be a fixed amount, far more than what we're getting offered as almost like I wouldn't say a bribe, but as a token of, oh look, we're going to give you all this huge money, £5,000 per megawatt, when in fact some are only giving £2. So there's no mandatory direction coming from the government to say to these companies, you must give a minimum of this. This is something which would be a huge benefit to communities, certainly on Skye and up in the northwest of Scotland, but specifically on Skye and probably the Western Isles. So that's just one thing that there's a strong feeling out there from the communities. There's also a bit of very recently coming from communities as well to do with the visitor levy, is that people are saying that is in direct conflict with the Island Act, because it's the way it's laid out and the way it's the Highland Council are consulting just now on the process. So we don't know till well after the end of March what the consultation process will throw up. But many people are talking to me and saying this is against the whole concept of the Island Act and the Island Plan, the way the legislation has been put together. So that's just something else. Looking at the last slide as well, just there on housing, for example, short-term lets, empty homes. I don't think we have too much of a problem with empty homes here on Skye, but we do have a problem in the number of accommodation that's been converted to short-term lets and Airbnb, and just recently, in fact, I was going to raise it later on this morning at housing, at the housing agenda item, but there are houses being put on the market, former council houses, for example, which are being snapped up by people from out with the island and turning them into Airbnb immediately, which is changing the communities on Skye and Raasay. It's definitely changing the communities, because you're just having a turnaround of visitors and creating very little local employment. And the final point, Chairman, sorry, I know I'm taking up too much time here, but just on the fisheries and aquaculture, there is quite a difficulty for fishing, for example, to attract young people to come and to enter the fishing industry. And one of their competitors, of course, is aquaculture. And I just wondered, in the Islands Plan and the Island Act, the aquaculture, we seem to be about maybe 15, 20 years behind other countries such as Norway. We're still going on the old-fashioned method of aquaculture, which Norway started and now have stopped. They've gone away from open nets to closed nets, that sort of thing. So that's something that it may not be relevant to what you're telling us today, but it's certainly some concerns have been expressed directly to me as a result of various planning applications. Is that why is Scotland and the islands are very much affected on the west coast, not so much in the east of Scotland, but on the west coast here? Why are we still going for the old traditional methods rather than maybe looking at modern, more suitable for what we're talking about in the climate changes? We're not really adapting to the climate changes. We're not adapting maybe to the environmental impacts as quickly as other countries are regarding fishing and aquaculture. And that will be glad to say that's me, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, so I think all the topics that you've articulated there, Drew, I suppose basically what you're saying is, how can the Islands Plan support some of these concerns that we're seeing in local communities related to these issues?
Exactly.
Yeah, we can't really be answering the questions you're asking, but the question is, how can the Islands Plan support these topical issues that communities are facing?
Sorry, it maybe wasn't meant to be questions. It was maybe meant to highlighting issues that are affecting this part of the world. So I'm maybe not expecting answers today, but it's just highlighting these concerns. So,
I'll try and address that very quickly.
I'll go to Councillor Monroe first, and then we'll come back. Okay, Callum.
Okay, thanks, John. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Francesco. I think from the slide that's on screen just now, we just see what a massively complex area this is, and all the interconnectedness of all these different aspects. I think, firstly, it's important we have a National Islands Plan, that's clear. And of course, you're not going to get that right first time. So obviously it's time to reflect, and this looks much more targeted and focused. So what I'm seeing I like. Obviously, population retention and attraction is key to us, and that connects really with a paper later on today in terms of school achievement and school roles in Skye and Raasay. So I think a couple of things maybe just to contribute. I think culture and empowered communities is crucial, it's key. Obviously, being chair of Gaelic Committee Language is extremely important to me and to the cohesion it gives in certain of our communities in Skye. I think too, community trusts, community companies play a key role in this, and I think we have to identify that and support them. Everything in terms of infrastructure and communities is that I've been part of a community trust which has just delivered an infrastructure project, and it's been a massive amount of effort from volunteers, and in many ways we had to clear so many hurdles. We had some really good support from the local authority, but other agencies with massive hurdles which were almost insurmountable for volunteers without support. So I think it's, we always hear about volunteer fatigue, but I think it's incredibly important that communities are supported, whether that's a trust or a community company. The other thing I think is pertinent here, I think Raasay is showing up in the later report. The school roll is projected to increase in Raasay. So obviously things are going well in Raasay, and you might look at various factors. I know there's a good element of house building going on there. Maybe that's helping that situation. Then you look at, say, for example, staff in the Northeast Skye. Now they have invested in housing, 6 new housing, but their school roll is projected to fall. So it's not as simple saying housing. There's so many interconnected factors. So just to finish up, Francesca, I just wonder, is there, I know that you report annually to Parliament, and maybe that's a method in which you actually look at what's working, what's not working, but is there almost a group or a subgroup of the National Islands Plan which looks at good practice, looks at the best practice, looks at what's working, and then processes that and disseminates the findings? What is going to work? And again, you said yourself, Francesca, not two communities are alike, not any two islands are alike, but I think there's obviously some good practice in what we're doing. Some communities and some islands are thriving, but it's we're wanting the whole to thrive. So thank you, Francesco.
Okay, so I think we've had a number of comments there. So what I'm going to do, Francesca, I'm going to go to Angus. Maybe Angus wants to pick up on a couple of things, and then we'll get a final statement from you, Francesca. Angus.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the first point that you made was, where does the reporting lie at the moment? So just to sort of say where we are at the moment. So obviously we've got Francesco coming along on a regular basis to speak to yourselves. I also do a sort of an annual report on the National Islands Plan as well, which I usually present. I think last year, as soon as May, June time, I usually present that. And I'm waiting this year to see what we've got in the budget. And I know the budget's still to be ratified in terms of both from a council perspective and also from a Scottish Parliament perspective. So I'm waiting a bit on that before I can start to pull that together. At the moment, I report to yourselves, and I also report to the Harbour Subcommittee. I've potentially widened that out to the Western Ross Strathpefferal Halsh Committee because of the Isle of Ewe. And are you thinking I should maybe report on a wider basis in the council, Chair? Is that something you were thinking about to another committee?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if we're just reporting directly to 3 area committees, I don't think we're doing enough. This is a National Islands Plan, so we should be taking it, I think, to full council. That's my opinion.
So full council. Okay, right. I'll get a note of that. Okay. Okay, so that was the first point. And obviously Francesco mentioned as well that he was going to give me an infographic about how this links in with the National Islands Plan, local police plans. That's very welcome, Francesco. So thank you for that. You also mentioned, Chair, about integrated community impact or integrated assessments. We started that at the beginning of July. I was part of the working group on that from the islands perspective, and we've done over 80 now. So it's obviously working. It's embedded in our system quite well, and anybody who's doing a new policy or a strategy or a service is obliged to do that, and it won't go in front of any committee unless that's been done. So I think that's probably a bit of a success story. that's happened in terms of that. Community wealth building was also mentioned as well. Now, I wasn't at the meeting, but we do have a couple of people who are involved in community wealth building within Highland Council. Michelle Hardy is one of them, and Gail Ward is another. Now, I know that there was a meeting recently in relation to the islands, and it was just, I think, an introductory meeting around community wealth building. I'm seeing Francesco nodding. I wasn't present at that, but that is something that's actively under discussion as well. In terms of some of the points that Councillor Miller made, yeah, I know these were issues that he was highlighting and certainly noted. He's right on in terms of some of the community wealth building stuff coming back. They are voluntary, and unless there's a change in the law and they're mandatory, then at the moment these are voluntary, and there's nothing to stop these companies actually not providing anything. I mean, that's unfortunately what, and I think that's probably where part of the social contract that Highland Council is trying to bring out. That's probably part of that reason as well. Yeah, visitor levy. I sit next to the tourism team, so I hear it. I absorb it quite a lot, the tourism levy, and yeah, it's still under consultation at the moment. Certainly, and also as well from Councillor Munro. Yeah, I again note the points, and I just wanted to reiterate that we are going to the Gaelic Committee in June as well, or Francesco is going to go to that. I'll accompany him as well to the Gaelic Committee in that as well. So if there's anything I've missed there, I'll certainly try and pick up on it, or I'll take a note. If I can't answer today, I'll try and pick a note, but certainly note what you're saying about the full council as well, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. We'll give you a brief last word, Francesco.
Chair, thank you. First of all, you've been extremely constructive and kind, and I'm happy to come back anytime and provide another update. And you know, it's all valuable feedback that we'll seek to kind of reflect on and then incorporate into the developing plan. In terms of the few comments that Councillor Miller made, community benefits feature in this slide. Bottom right corner, there is a consultation underway, Councillor, about community benefits for offshore wind and onshore wind projects. Angus, if you haven't seen that, I'll put you in touch with colleagues. You may want to consider putting some response in, but there is work underway on that. That kind of leads me to talk about, again, additionality. We've been asked to use the National Islands Plan to go above and beyond what's already happening. It is easier said than done, however, because a lot is already happening. Now, I think nobody in the Scottish Government would question the fact that we need to do more and we need to do better in some areas. But I think it is undeniable that there are a lot of things happening. So for the plan to come up with new things is actually quite challenging. We're trying to be proportionate, and we're trying to build island-specific actions, perhaps looking at recommendations that we have received. Councillor Moreau will be familiar with the Short Life Working Group on Gaelic and the Economy. So there are some recommendations there that the National Islands Plan could pick up and translate into commitments. Things like that, that is the strategic space where reasonably and proportionately the plan can work. Coming up with a completely new thing is difficult because, again, while acknowledging the fact that some things should be delivered more kind of strategically, it's not that they haven't been considered before. The Scottish Government is aware, and there's been kind of thinking. Visitor levy, again, I think that is for local authorities now to kind of deliver if they want to. There is some flexibility now that is done. What Councillor Miller heard has been brought to my attention as well. Island communities are a bit nervous because they may be asked, they may be charged a levy when they go to the mainland, for instance, for hospital appointments. That is something, to be completely honest with you, I had not considered. And as Scottish Government, we will reflect on it. But I think it's more of a local authority space right now. There should be flexibility in deciding how the levy is applied locally and whether an island community impact assessment could be carried out and inform exceptions. Councillor Miller also mentioned empty homes, perhaps not a big issue on Skye, but it was brought quite robustly to my attention on Raasay, for instance. So I'm very mindful of that. And again, it shows how even two adjacent islands can be very difficult, very different sometimes. I'll just conclude there, but my commitment to
Francesco.
come back to you stands.
Yeah. Okay. So I think what you're hearing from us is that it's good that we've got the plan, and we need to have a plan. I think what you're also hearing is you're saying here that it's, you know, it may be difficult to think of new recommendations and new things to do, I don't think it is. Just you keep speaking to us and keep speaking to people in local communities.
We
and,
will.
You know, and I think you'll find that there's lots to be done. But we do appreciate your time, and I think it's a topic that's really important. So we will hopefully be seeing you at another area business meeting, certainly, and who knows, at another area committee. So can I thank both Angus and Francesco for their time today, and I think that was a very important presentation. Francesca, I think maybe if you could take down your slides as well, and you could send them on to members later, that would be good.
Will do. Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Aye.
Okay, members, we're moving on to item 5. So, as you know, we've been inviting local community trusts and groups and companies to area committees to give us a wee update on the work that they're doing. And today we've got Portree and Braes Community Trust with us. And I think we've got Iona MacDonald and Alec MacLeod with us. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, and
Okay.
Neil Campbell as well,
Okay.
one of our trustees.
Okay. So, who's leading on this? Is it yourself, Iona?
Yes, for most of it, John. Thank you.
Okay. So, welcome to the committee, and over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the opportunity to allow us to tell you all about what we are up to for the next little while. We do have a presentation, which is just loading at the moment. Bear with us a moment, thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
You're seeing it.
Yeah.
Lovely picture of Portree there, and I was very encouraged to hear Councillor Munro talking about the importance of voluntary support in community activities as well. And Portree and Braes Community Trust relies very much on the voluntary support that we receive from the people of Portree and Braes. I will speak a little bit about our main projects. If we just move on to the next slide, Alec, thank you. We have a number of what I would call major projects on the go at the moment, not least amongst them being the land acquisition, particularly the King George V playing field from FEI. Also the maintenance of the helipad, village paths and planting, Bayfield, lease of the ground to Highland Council for car parking space, which provides us with another revenue stream. Events group, Light Up Portree as it's also known, that run a number of community events in the village, both in the shoulder months and during the summer. Pier toilets, play parks, Gaelic Weekly Conversation Group, our own website, which will also be part of our revenue generating projects, lotto advertising posts on the green, again providing this revenue stream, and our allotments. We also have the trust as a project as well. So King George V, which is our main priority for this quarter, originally that was to be in our hands by 31st of March. We've agreed with Ferenil Meerman that will have to be extended to 31st. Sorry, we have a visitor. We also, sorry about that. just lost track for a second. Yes, 31st of May, because they are going through voluntary registration of a number of their small pieces of ground, and it just will take a little bit longer. We were also negotiating with yourselves to take over the old swimming pool site, which was actually free of charge as a Berenil stipulation, and we were quite disappointed, I think would be the word, to receive the email on Friday to say that this may not go ahead as quickly as we had anticipated, and I think we might need to request another meeting with yourselves to discuss that fully. I don't think we'll be able to discuss that today in the time available. The helipad refurbishment as well, electrical overhaul, painting and fencing, which is being supported by Highland Council, Community Regeneration, and the Trust website, which is also being supported by yourselves to the value of 8,000. Village planting will also be a project undertaken this year. We have some assistance from the Rabbies to do that, and we're hoping for some more again this year. And we will also be looking after hopefully, the Bayfield embankment on your behalf as well. Wastewater disposal and pier toilets, again, very important to particularly the tourists, but also to other car park and pier users. And our allotments, which are now going very well. So if we could go back to the King George V playing field, number 4, Alec, thank you. So this has been an important element of Portree and Braise's community trust plans for a number of years, but FEI's offer to sell was only taken forward in the last 18 months when we received Scottish Land Fund assistance towards it. Now, the Scottish Land Fund assistance is £11,000 and the purchase price is £35,000. So we have been raising the deficit within the community very successfully. We're pleased to report, and that's coming via individual donations, business donations, and fundraising campaigns by local groups, local user groups, for which we're very, very, very grateful. That all adds to our development fund for the ground when we eventually take it over. Now, the old swimming pool site, which is an integral part of the KGV, although owned by yourselves, and the transfer has been agreed with Highland Council for no consideration, which was an FEI stipulation because the ground was gifted for the use of the swimming pool in 1978. Now, we were informed that you would be placing temporary office accommodation there for an indefinite period, but the email received on Friday that I mentioned seems to not exactly go back on that, but certainly makes things a lot less secure. So we would appreciate the opportunity to discuss that with you further. And of course, we would have the expectation that the ground would be made good on removal of the temporary buildings, and fences, etc., would be reinstated. So we will take that forward with you, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks. The helipad improvement works, they have been progressing. So to the northwest of the village, used by emergency services for air ambulance evacuations and Coast Guard operations. And these costs of maintenance are partly offset by commercial and non-emergency landings, where a £100 donation per landing is requested. So that perhaps brings in something in the region of £1,000 per annum. Remedial and improvement works have commenced and are nearing completion on the site. Hopefully that will be completed on target next week. That's including the electrical upgrade, fencing works and repainting of the pad itself. And they're supported by the community regeneration funding. So completion date is 28th of February. £11,000 towards that is being granted by Highland Council. Neil Campbell, a former paramedic in the village, was up at the helipad today. Have you got anything to add to that? Neil?
No, not really. I think you've covered it all. I popped in this morning to just check to see how things are going on. All the lights are up and working. There is some minor works to finish off by the electricians, but fully expect that to be done this week. And the fencing has started and looks to be on target to be finished, hopefully by the end of this week as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Neil. We're rebuilding our own trust website, and hopefully that will help to increase community engagement. It will also support our various revenue streams. So we're currently reworking the existing content, addition of some new content and enhanced functionality, with the aim of increasing unrestricted income and improving communications with audience. And again, that is due for completion by next week and is currently on target. So village planting and aesthetics, particularly with not having a community council at the moment, the trust has stepped in to try to make sure that the centre of the village is an attractive space for residents and for tourists alike. So including street furniture, benches, etc., village paths, planters, shrubs. This in the past has been supported by Rabbie's Trailblazers, who pay it as a voluntary carbon offset tax. And we're hoping for further support from that same source in 2025. We also have an application with yourselves today for more discretionary funding towards grass and brush cutting works at Bayfield Car Park. So we're hopeful that that will be well received. We would, while we're mentioning Bayfield, just like to bring up the state of the tarmac surface at Bayfield Car Park, which is appalling, and I would imagine quite dangerous to vehicles. It's not just rough. There are actual holes. I know this is a problem throughout Skye, but we just wanted to highlight it while we're here. Wastewater disposal and pier toilets, we count those almost as a one project. Wastewater disposal is therefore in Bayfield for the use of motorhomes and camper vans, and it assists the costs of the pier toilets, which Highland Council also supports via its comfort fund. Obviously, the income in the summer months is significantly greater than at this time of year, but it is the wastewater disposal is available all year round. And the 2-toilet unit with card payment facility at the pier in Portree, 50 pence per use, is operated at a loss to the trust, but we, as I say, we do support that through the wastewater disposal income to make sure that it is maintained. And we've recently been in touch with yourselves regarding the electricity supply, and happy to report that we've come to a mutually beneficial agreement on that. The allotments, which Alec is our main man for, we have 2 polytunnels installed, one with 30 raised beds, one with a workshop. The summer house has been constructed, which is an accessible event space. Composting toilet is now operational. We've spared you the pictures of that. Solar panels also being installed this month to provide electricity power on the site. All plots have been allocated, and there are a number of community events, green events, if you like, planned to take place there as well. We're coming to the end. Next steps, obviously, as I've mentioned, our main priority is the development and improvement of the KGV, the King George V playing field. We will be investigating possible further land and building acquisitions for the community. We will be aiming to increase our revenue income with a view to becoming self-sustaining. We would like to sustain our officer posts as they are at the moment, and also maintain all of our current projects. Tapli the Harton.
Okay, Maha, Gleva, Tafla Sunshine. Okay, so thank you very much for that, Iona. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear all the good work that is taking place. And I think, as you alluded there, it is very much about a partnership working with organisations like the Highland Council. And it's good to see that there is recognition of the community regeneration funding and more discussionary funding that's taking place. In terms of the old swimming pool site, obviously that's an operational issue that we can take offline, I think, with the relevant officers. But I don't think you need to be concerned about things not being as was originally mentioned. It's just that the timescales have changed, and I'm sure you are aware of the demonstrator project that's taking place at Tynaskira, which again will be an asset to the community once it's refurbished. And it might even be that you find yourselves in Tynaskira, because we're looking for co-location of public bodies in there. But no, I really appreciate the summary that you've given, and I'd like to congratulate all the volunteers and the staff for the good work that you are doing. Drew, I'll go to you next.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Iona, for the presentation. Very good indeed. Can I just maybe point out there's a meeting on Wednesday of this week, I believe, with to do with the tidying up Portree and I've been in touch with Roger Liley over that, so that's hopefully we'll get a wee turnout for that. People are interested. I can assure you that all of us well aware of the state of the car park at Bayfield. It's on the list. We had some interesting photos taken, so we'll be doing as much as we can to make sure it's resurfaced and relined before the summer season gets underway. But as you made the point yourself, there's a lot of repairs needing done throughout the island, but certainly Portree, we're charging for car parking. It has to be, I think we all agreed at a board business meeting some time ago that it needs to be done before the summer. But it's obviously I support your work that you're doing in Portree and Bray's Trust. It's fantastic. I'm glad to see as well that the allotments have been successful, that they're all allocated. It's good. And if we can help, I'm sure, I'm speaking for the other guys, we can help. We'll do as best I can to help with all your projects going forward. So just thanks very much for the presentation. Good job.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Drew, and thank you to all the members. And we do very much appreciate the individual inputs that the members have to the work that we do.
Okay, Callum, you've got the last word.
Tapel of Hadich, Fakal Meerting, so Tapel of Iona, Neil, Alex, and China Stay, Ma Plunion Manoperakus, Hamayolochis. In a shin, a cleavant, you a nails, word. Thanks for your update. It's really good to hear. I mean, as my fellow members have said, we're really supportive. It's good to see the CRF money being put to use, and also I'm sure you're drawing in other funds. Congratulations on raising the money, or almost. I don't know if you've met your target for the King George. I mean, that's quite a amount of money. If you're there, that's great.
Yes.
Yeah, Cleva, that's really great. And no questions. It's just really positive, and I think it's important that we have our community trusts coming to speak to the committee. So more than time.
Okay.
Chair Bear.
Iona, maybe just one question. See, in terms of the purchase of the KJV, I see that the Scottish Land Fund only give you 11 grand, which is quite unusual given, so how come, you didn't get more from them than, I mean.
Yes, because the valuation actually came in at 11,000, although Fernil Neerman valued it more highly. So that's where that particular deficit comes in. So we had to fill that void ourselves.
Right. Okay. That's really interesting. So okay. Thanks for that information. Okay. Well, can I thank you, Iona and Neil and Alex for coming to the area committee. I'm sure we'll be in touch with you forevermore about various projects and working in partnership. But thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
One thank.
Happily. Okay, members, moving on now to item 6, the Area Roads Capital Programme, which I know even from that last item, we know the importance to our communities about improvement to our roads. I think we also recognise that in recent months we've had probably a perfect storm in terms of rain, snow, sleet, frost, salt. And it's really quite amazing the deterioration in some of our roads over even recent weeks. And again, that's just just the way life is, and it's testament to the kind of winter we've had. So we'll go to Mackenzie Sutherland, our roads operational manager, who'll give us an outline of what the capital programme looks like, and then we'll have comments and questions afterwards. Over to you, Mac.
Yeah, listen, thanks very much for inviting me to the Skye and Raasay committee and allowing me to present and take questions at the end about the capital plan for 25-26. I'm not going to pick up on every single item in the report, but I will share the report with you, and I'll talk to some of the bits that I think are more important, and obviously take questions at the end if I've missed anything that members want to talk about specifically. So just allow me to share if that's okay. Just takes a wee second. If you members could tell me if you can see that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, okay, that's grand. So if we go down to 5.2, which is really in the meat of the report itself, talking about what it is we hope to do. The background, in the item 5. So 5.2, the works will be delivered by both internal and external contractors. However, wherever possible, the works will be delivered internally, and it's due to lack of availability of external contractors, and of course the cost of them. The increased flexibility capabilities of using the local guys means that we can be a lot more sort of light of foot and go where the requirements are. If we go down to 5.5, and this is quite an important one, because in previous years, at this point, we would be talking about maybe £800,000 or £900,000 worth of investment in the road, and we would be making a plan based on that previous year's capital investment. So then we go and we program those works, and then later on in the year, members find more money for us, and then we try and program those works in as well. And it takes time to program the works, and this is really what this point is about. And that's why it might appear that in previous years we have sort of hopscotched around the island, north to south, east to west. We lose a lot of money on mobilisation, a lot of money on the programming and planning, because that's the way it's done. So what I've done with this one is I've assumed a similar amount of money this year that we got last year, and that means we can more effectively plan the works that we're doing and deliver them in what will definitely seem or it will definitely be a more sort of structured way. So 5.6, and this is something you really touched upon there when you were talking about the weather, John. Chair, apologise. Recognise that variations can be expected due to rapid deterioration of the road network after the creation of the programme that I've put in. The variations will be discussed and agreed with members at ward business meetings. We have to maintain a dynamic programme. So what I've got in here is what I hope that we can deliver, and based on inspection works over the last couple of months, what I see as being the biggest threats to the travelling public moving forward. 6.2, and this is talking about that allocation, local allocation for 24-25 for the Skye and Raasay area was set, and this talks about that initial sort of structural overlay inlay, surface dressing, and the structures, and then the strategic allocation, which is the most important thing about this really, because it triples what we can normally deliver. So last year it was £3 million or just over £3 million, and I've assumed the same going forward. 7.3, so all roads are inspected either monthly, quarterly or annually for safety hazards. We have been inspecting as we could within with the availability of staff, basically, in order to do that. So those inspections, including and taking into consideration specific concerns raised by members and community council as well, are also taken into the inclusion of the report. Excuse me. 7.4, again, I touched upon this just earlier on, capital works programme for 25-26, including surface dressing and structural overlays listed in Appendix 2. There may be changes made to the content and delivery of this programme based on further deterioration of the road networks. Again, exactly what the Chair was speaking about earlier on. So I have to say that the labelling of the appendices, I apologise for that. There was a comment from a community council member down the south end, quite rightly pointing out, I'm just going to pass, sorry, we're going to go past the impact assessment. The impact assessment is exactly how it affects people, and if there's going to be negative or positive outcomes based on that. So obviously that's all been done. Let me just get down to the okay, surface dressing and structural programme 25-26. And as I said, this will be, let me just, hang on. So this will be what we hope to deliver. I can offer up, if you want, like specific photographs of specific areas as well, but this is sort of the condensed version of it. You'll notice that estimated scheme costs, which is sort of the third last column. Let me just zoom down here. So there are some schemes that, although require larger amounts of money, what I'm having to do is take a view that I'm going to repair or fix or improve over the next 2 or 3 years. So you'll notice, for instance, the Bernasdale section, excuse me, £104,000 is what I estimate it's going to cost. I can't allocate all that to that at that point for this coming year, so I'm allocating £80,000 towards that, and then the following year I'll try and get back to finish it. And this happens in 2 or 3 different sections. So the Millavig Top Road, for instance, £61,000 to repair that road. I'm going to put £25,000 to it this year, and we will do. And this is repeated within the overlay programs down here. If we take, and I'm just skimming through it, member, sorry, so I'm happy to go back and talk. But the 855, so that's coming out of Portree, so from the wee co-op out, £211,000 is the estimate for that inlay work and overlay further up. So I'm putting £75,000 towards that, and I'll do it over the next 2 or 3 years. I'll obviously continue to patch wherever possible, or rather patch to try and keep the road from there being too many stingers on it. But I'll go and I'll have a look at that section of road, and I will allocate that £75,000 to the worst section, and then as we go on through the years, we'll that's the way I think that's the only way we can do it. So we could, as I say, we could go all the way through this, but members have had a chance to look at it, and it's in the public domain now. If we look at the appendix, sorry, it's a long old list of the work that we hope to deliver. If we go down to Appendix 3, and I think this appendix as well caused some confusion. Again, I apologise, it's my labelling of it. What I really should have said is this is the works, the works that I had, the roads that I had inspected to date that require works on them, but they're unfunded. It's an unfunded list. It's not the end of that particular piece of work. We have a roads inspector starting today, in actual fact, John McCrate, who's coming to live on Skye, and this will be a piece of work that he will continue. It's a piece of work that I had been working on independently, and it shows sections of road and what it requires to bring them up to scratch. So the only parts that are funded are obviously in the last column, but that last column appears in Appendix 2 further up. So it's the master document that I pulled this from. Now, it won't take too keen an eye to realise that I haven't inspected all the roads yet in relation to this particular project, and so that's going to be work ongoing, and I'm happy to continue that piece of work and bring it to the next committee with it updated. Hopefully we should have them all done. There are a lot of roads on Skye, as you know, and I started with the A class, started working through the B classes. The roads that we'd spent a bit of money on over the last couple of years I hadn't inspected. The reason why I hadn't inspected them is I didn't have time to do it, that's all. So we are, that's a piece of work that we're continuing. And what I want from at the end of that is a real-time picture of what, I do apologise, the postman's just come in the door, which undoubtedly my dog will bark. I do apologise, members. So I want an informed piece of work that the members know exactly how much it is going to cost to bring the roads up to a steady and stable state, so that you're fully informed. If we look at so £3 million is a lot of money. It's more than we've ever had, and I thank you for it, but yeah, it's going to take a fair old bit to get us going. Now, I'm going to stop sharing that just now, members, or do you want me to leave that on while you ask me questions?
No, I mean, the document's in the public domain and it's in the report, so fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Please.
Right, okay, thank you, Mac. Before I go to members, I think what's really important to remember is that I mean, it's 3 years ago, we were looking at a capital programme that was being funded to the tune of less than £500,000.
Yeah,
So the
that's
last 2 years, we have increased what we're able to spend, on the island. So last year and this year, we're spending over 3 million. I think everyone recognises it's not enough. It's not anywhere near enough. And I think at the last estimate to get the roads up in Skye up to a decent standard would be nearly £40 million. But we can only do what we can do with the resource that we've got. And that's why we need the planned programme. And I think what you said there about being more strategic in how we do the work, I think is really important. And also having that longer term list of priorities, again, I think should reassure communities. But you also said that we need to have flexibility where things do become really bad. We do have to have that flexibility. My question really relates to the fact, and I keep getting quoted by members of the community. Oh, I remember when there was a roadman in every community and we had 60 people working. It'd be quite good to understand just how many people we have working the roads team now. There are vacancies that I believe you're hoping to fill very soon, which is good. In terms of things like traffic management, I mean, how much does that add to your costs when you come to be doing a section of road? Because presumably we have to bring in companies that are experts in that. Is there possibility of getting our own guys to do some of the traffic management, which I think we should be doing? And as well as our planned programme, are we still going to be able to carry on with some revenue works like passing place signs, etc., or will everybody be on the planned programme? But I think, Mac, you like me and all the members on this screen appreciate this is a huge issue for the people of Skye. Every day, nearly every hour, we're getting complaints about roads, but we've only got so much to spend and we can only do what we can do with the resource we've got. What we'll do, Mac, is we'll go down to all the members, then you can come back in. Drew?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thank you, Mac, for this report. It makes some interesting reading, and just reiterate what the chairman said there just now, looking for the explanation and some breakdown of the costs. And I mean, any particular one, but if you wanted to highlight, just looking at the report, if there's anything you can highlight and maybe just break down how that costs arise. I know it's not all down just to tarmac, so it would be maybe useful for the public to have it in the domain exactly how you do that. It would be much appreciated. First of all, though, I want to say thank you for allowing me the chance to go out with one of your foremen to, or maybe your only foreman, to have a look at how the roads are inspected. It was a real eye-opener, and I very much appreciate it. I just feel much more qualified now to respond to people, having seen exactly how you map out the work that needs to be done on a particular stretch. So thank you for allowing me to go out with your workforce on the day I did. It was really much appreciated. So again, just going on from what the chair said there about recruitment, because we all know that we're getting older every year. Just sort of how is the forward planning allowing you to look at keeping your workforce to the level it is, or maybe even improving it? And you might touch on that with a response to the chair's question as well. But the one disappointment I think is held by many of our road users, and that's the fact is that the work that you've been doing this present financial year and looking forward to the next year, it's not so much appreciated as it could be because of the lack of white lining, not only centre lines but side lines as well. And we compare that quite regularly to the work that's done on the trunk roads, where they seem to have an instant connection. So again, it would be good if you could maybe expand on the issue that we're aware of some of them ourselves as members, but the general public aren't. So I think that would be quite useful. And my final really point, I suppose, given the amount of work that you're hoping to complete this financial year and then looking forward to 25-26, would it be possible for as members to get information that we can pass on to our community councils, which we do attend? We've all got community councils allocated, that they could be kept informed as well through ourselves as to when and where the work is going to happen in their particular area, allowing, of course, for flexibility, emergencies, etc. But I think it would be useful for community councils who are quite involved nowadays to be able to tell them, look, in May and June, for example, you can expect, unless an emergency happens, this work to be happening in your place. And I just think it's a fantastic report. Really a lot of information there to absorb. But just thank you for that, and I'm looking forward to obviously getting the answers to the questions. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Monroe.
Thanks, Chair. Afternoon, Mac. Thanks for the report. Thanks for your introduction. I mean, a lot of it, what I was going to say has been said. This is a job which is going to take years. I think we all understand that. I think the nearly a day I spent with your foreman going round the North End roads in January was really worthwhile. It showed me the process which is involved, how much measurement, assessment of the road condition is involved, and then you've taken that forward into the plan. I'm really glad to see some roads there. I'll mention one or two just off the A855, Conister, Aird, Camusmore, all very much in need of attention. And I think what you've done here, Mac, is you've given a balance. It's not just the A roads, we're getting township roads, we're getting B, C and classified roads, all requiring work, and there's a cross section of roads in the plan for this year, and going forward there'll be more the following year if we can continue with this level of funding. The question I have, Mark, was just simply the way it's set out in the appendices. That's not necessarily the way it's going to be done. I'm sure it's going to, and I suppose connected to that is how you program. I know it's not just a question of turning up and putting your planer or your paper on the road. You obviously have to inform. There's a database you have to inform of the work, and probably good for the public to hear an explanation of that, Mac. Thanks.
Okay, and Councillor Stewart.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mac. It's a really big piece of work, this, and I think it is good to have that sort of longer term view and what needs done, and that sort of strategic focus on how we're going to get there, because previously, as other members have said, it seems to be very like ad hoc, and having this more programmed set of work's definitely a step in the right direction. But we hear the scale of the challenge and how much money we're going to need to fix it. I think this almost goes back to the thing that Highland Council, we've got choices to make where we spend our money, but fundamentally as a council we don't get enough money from central government. If you look at the trunk road network, for example, I think Highland Council has a quarter of all of Scotland's trunk road network, but we've only cover a third of Scotland's landmass. So we're certainly underserved in that respect, and I think there's probably a case to be made that the Scottish Government need to step up to take on some of our network, to make sure that the money that we've got can really be spent in the most sort of valuable way for our communities. And as well, you just have to look at how the Green Book formula works for local government funding. The split between network length and network usage definitely doesn't serve rural authorities like Highland in the best way possible. So it's, I think there's a case that needs to be made. We need to go to Scottish Government and say you've got to step up and deliver, because as we've seen in this report, it is a big piece of work that needs done, and our communities expect it. So I'm really grateful, Mark, for the honesty of this report. I think it provides important context that many in our communities need, but it also does highlight the challenges that we face here in the Highlands. But I'm very confident that you and the team will be able to deliver this programme. So thank you for bringing it to committee, and you've got my full support and confidence with this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rooney. Valuable contribution there. Thank you. And just before I go to Mark, I had the joy of going out with the organ grinder himself in his van when we were doing some of the road inspections. So that in itself was a unique experience too. Okay, Mark, back to you.
Okay, so I think I've taken notes of everything that members in the chair want answered, but if I miss anything, obviously, just give me a shout. So, if we start at the bottom, if that's okay. So, program details. How do we create the program? So there is, of course, a database, the roadwork register. We have to book the road space before we do it. Major capital works are 3 months' notice, so you have to book. And the reason for that is so if any other statutory undertakers, like I don't know, the the water board or something, want to do any work, they will have a look at the roadwork register and they see I'm about to come in and doing some overlay. So, oh my goodness, they should get in advance and do any works that they have, so that they're not breaking the surface of a brand new road. So, information advanced work for, I think it was Drew, Councillor Miller, sorry, that asked this one. Yeah, of course we can. Of course I can give you those details. Once the programme is committed to when, where and how, I'm happy to make that a public document anyway. And with obviously a bit of caveat there that I may have to move things around a little bit. But so I'm going to use a slightly different approach this year. Last year was my first year as the roads operations manager, and I looked at how things had been delivered, and so it was a bit of a test case in some instances. So what I want to do is, so we'll turn up on a single track road, and we will use stop go traffic management, and we'll try and keep people moving as and when they arrive. Problem with that is it really messes with the delivery of materials on site. It messes with the guys' working hours. It messes with not just the delivery, but how we actually lay the tar. You end up with an awful lot more joints in it if you're doing 2 lorries pulling off, and you don't want cold joints. So I'm going to use notices or orders to shut roads with amnesties, single track roads, which will be a huge piece of work for me to do. But I think that the delivery will improve dramatically. We should be able to get through the programme much quicker. Now, of course, in order for that to happen, communities will have to be informed or consulted and discussed. And I would look for that feedback from every single job about, someone's got to go to a hospital appointment, someone's got to take the school kids out back and stuff like that. So I'm not looking to completely shut it for 8 hours a day. There'll be amnesties within there to allow that to happen. But importantly, in some of the more heavily tourist trafficked areas, I'm just going to shut it to tourist traffic, and I'm just going to say it's for local access only, in order so that we can deliver a programme that sort of makes financial sense at the end of the day. The additional costs, we spoke about mobilisation, the additional costs of having to open and shut a road whenever there is you're supposed to hold it for 20 minutes. So every time there's a build up of traffic, all the machinery's got to get off the road. It just doesn't make any sense. So I expect a bit of resistance in some instances from businesses that are at the end of roads or communities that are at the end of roads, but I'm going to try and work with them. But ultimately, there will be disruption in order to deliver the programme properly or more effectively. So I brace for that. White lines, yeah. I couldn't agree anymore. So white lines, the problem with white lines is the competition. There's a lot of money being spent all over the Highlands, and it's really, really tough to try and get a white lining company here. I thought I had one. I think in actual fact, I sat at committee and said that I had one. I had one coming. They were supposed to be coming the following week to do white lining for me, and they had, basically they went somewhere else. And they were putting me back, which can happen in a programme, but they put me back. And when they said they could take me, it was November and it was pouring with rain. And I'm not going to waste, it was £130,000 worth of lining. I'm not going to waste that money putting on wet roads or roads that are covered in salt. So I had to withdraw from that. This week, I have one of my colleagues from Inverness, Alan Hogg, who runs the Highland Council, or programmes the Highland Council white liner. He's on Skye for the next 3 days, surveying the roads to see what needs to happen on there. So there's a programme that we can put into the Highland Council. But again, we compete with the other areas, don't we? So regardless of, you know, the Highland Council white liner is a great thing in actual fact, because it's one less area that needs done. But I don't know what to say to you. I can't get white liners to come here. Bear have a completely different contract. That part of the white lining or part of the surfacing white lining costs are involved in it. And as soon as it's finished, they come and they white line it. You will see though. So, you know, okay, so it's a public forum, but a lot of those white lines fail because they're doing them in November and December, or when, you know, later on in the year. They're doing it when it's wet. I'm not having a go at the quality of workmanship. It's just you see them at the side of the roads and they fail all the time. It's kind of a Goldilocks product, isn't it? You know, it wants to be in a warm, dry environment for it to work really well. So yeah. I don't have a real good answer for you there, other than I'm keeping trying to get it to happen, and I'm setting aside. I'll show you in a wee minute. You asked specifically about how I price a job, so I'll show you that just at the end if that's okay. But you'll see that within this, I have put in for white lining within the price as well, so it's within it. Recruitment, you know, do we need more men? Of course we need more men. We always need more men. At the moment we have 18 staff, or 18 men, sorry, 18 operatives, apologise. 2 of which are on long-term sick. So that means we've got 16 men. 16 men times 8 weeks holiday a year. So it's 104 weeks of holiday. So that's me down to 14 men really in real terms. All the other areas suffer this problem as well. It's not a problem. They all have the same situation, the fact that our guys need holidays. So the headline figure 18 men, but in actual fact, to the foreman that you all met, he's only got 14 men at his disposal. That's you know, that's before any sicknesses or sort of ad hoc things that stop that from happening. So yeah, it's a tricky one. We do have a real good working relationship with Ward 5, in the fact that we can we use their men with delivery of the programme wherever required. So I have to really thank them for that. It would be really tricky to so I'm delivering. It hasn't happened in the past, but it happened last year. I'm delivering surface dress and surfacing at the same time. That can only be done with the help of our colleagues over the water. And then likewise later in the year, the cost to us, then obviously we pay that internal recharge, but the cost to us is then when they need stuff done, we supply men as well. So, but it means that instead of looking for like 7 or 8 men for a job, I only need 4 now. So I might lose them later on in the year, but I've gained earlier on in the year, and that allows me to do the surfacing programme at the same time. The impact on the revenue works, which is the sign poles, the general sort of road maintenance, is massive. If all my guys pretty much were coded to capital last year, and that creates an issue. But we're looking to try and, again, with the assistance of Ward 5 and contractors, look at how we manage that better. Because so the problem with not doing your revenue works and only doing capital works is those revenue works become capital works really quickly, because you're not being able to maintain and look after those roads. So yeah, it's a unique set of problems that I don't suppose has ever come along. But the problem is the establishment, you know. So do we put a business case in for increasing the establishment up, and then in a year or two's time, are we going to have this level of money continuing on into the future? It's a real tricky one. I suppose my point of view, my approach to that is the fact that yes, we should, wherever possible, increase the establishment, but there's budget pressures on that as well. And our demographic of workforce, we've got some older guys there who I'm sure will be retiring in the next couple of years. So my thoughts are, if we were to be able to increase it and there was that money didn't continue, then as those guys retired, we just wouldn't replace them, and that's how that would balance it out. Let me just see, sorry. So that's manpower, recruitment and establishment, traffic management. So traffic management, when we had our sort of £500,000 or £600,000 budgets, maybe £30,000, £40,000 was going out to traffic management, and it's not the speciality. All our guys have got their tickets. It's just the manpower. We can't, on a convoy, it's 3 guys that we need, and we just can't spare 3 guys to do it. So we have to be legal. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out if we were at £500,600,000 and we're spending 30 grand. So last year, or from the beginning of this financial year to the 30th of November, I spent £204,000 on traffic management. It's a lot of money. Now some of that is of course included as the vehicles and the hire the signs and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a lot of money, and it's going to continue as long as it's part of the cost of delivering £3 million of capital. The only alternative to that is to have our own traffic management guys. But again, that's an increase in the establishment, and it only exists when we have this capital money. If that capital money goes, then we've got 3 traffic management guys sitting idle. So there's a piece of work to be done there. Did I miss it? Sorry, Rudy. Was there a question in your? Are you there, Rudy?
No, it was more just making the point that I think as members we've got to do a bit more about making the case, Mark, to get you the resource that you need here to do the work in Skye.
Okay, and I can't help but feeling I've left some of Callum's out. Was there anything else I missed on you, Callum?
Mark, no, that's fine, thanks. I think you covered it all.
No, I think
So.
Sorry, Mark. I think you have covered everything.
So I want to show you how, if you want. Sorry, I see.
Okay, I am conscious of the time. You've got 5 minutes then.
Okay, I'll just really quickly show you how I come to the costings of the job. So I have a master spreadsheet. Tell me if you see this.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just everyone will know that's just coming out of the old post office. So we have a what 3 words start and finish. We have an assessment of the road, so that's length of the section that needs surfaced, the width or the average width of it, square meters. So the surfacing materials and getting them on site and laid is £25 a square meter, £10 if it's regulating. And this is what we can do because it's us, because it's internal. If that goes external, that changes. If I've got to get breedings in to do it, for instance. The lining on the job, so I've added the lining into it there. Traffic management per day is about £1,200 a day. So there's an external planer, so I would have to bring a planer in to do that because it's not a section of road that you could just do with our Pothole Pro, and the sweeper for the day that's going to go along with that planer. So that's where those costs come on that one section of job. It's £22,000. So that's how I cost the jobs. But it does include all those additionals, those extras. So if it was just surfacing and we didn't have to put traffic management or lining on it, it would be 17,600. But when you add it all up, it's £22,000. So that's how I price it.
Okay, no, thank you for that. Okay, I see Drew's got his hand up again.
Sorry, thanks for letting me back in. I just on what Mark said there about the trend for the workforce. I mean, surely the council must have a responsibility now then for rural areas such as Skye and Raasay to have a better method of workforce planning to make sure that we have a conveyor belt of people coming in. The white lining must be a health and safety issue, Mac, I would suggest. And the traffic management, which the chairman mentioned earlier, and you mentioned as well there. I mean, there is a lot of other works that need to be done. We all know, and we've I'm sure people who buy the local paper, which I don't, may have seen it about the water on roads, etc. So there would be a justification for having an in-house traffic management. I would suggest that when they weren't needed for that particular role, they could be doing something else. I think we've got an endless amount of work here. So I think that as members, are we going to support the call for maybe better workforce planning and some staff recruitment to accommodate the work that needs to be done, certainly over the next 2.5, 3 years that we've highlighted, and it's in your plan for forward planning. So I just think we need to try and get some more people on board that can do multitasking jobs. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, no,
If
I think that's an eminently sensible proposal. Clearly, though, it's down to funding. So if we rob Peter, we have to pay Paul. So there's but it's still something I think that we definitely do need to discuss. Okay, so I think, Mark, what we've heard today is that, you know, we've got a capital programme. It's more strategic than it's ever been. We can't underestimate the size of the challenge we've got, but the reality is we've got more funding than we've ever had. But I suppose people might say we've got more stress on our roads than we've ever had as well, given that a lot of our roads are basically unengineered and weren't built for hundreds of thousands of visitors coming to certain hotspots. But thank you for your input. So members, we're asked to approve the programme, the Capital Roads programme. Are we happy to do that?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Take care, Peter.
Okay, moving on then, community regeneration. Marianne, are you with us today? So we've got an application in here that we've all read in great detail. Do you want to just give us a very brief summary, and then we're asked to approve or otherwise?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. It's nice to see you again. So as you said, Chair, we're just here to discuss an application to the Community Regeneration Fund. You will have seen in the report in front of you, there is currently a balance of £26,370 of CRF available within the Skye and Raasay allocation. So there are no resource implications should members be minded to approve the funding award as outlined in the report today. You will have received a copy of the application form and the RAG summary spreadsheet. The application under consideration today is reference CRF 2358 from the John Muir Trust, and it relates to the cost of upgrading the toilet facilities at Blavan. I am sure members will be familiar with the site. John Muir Trust currently manage the car park and the public toilets facilities. It's a popular site for locals and visitors to the area, and the car park is often at capacity, especially during the summer months. It will come again as no surprise to members that, as with other many facilities around the island, the ever increasing number of visitors to the area has put considerable pressure on the facilities, which are now unable to cope efficiently with the level of use. So the project is looking to replace the current composting toilet system with a water-based system, which will have an increased capacity. And part of the project costs also include costs to replace the cattle grid and some of the fencing around the site. There are no eligibility concerns with this application. Match funding is secured. The project is ready to start. The application has been assessed positively against all the criteria on the technical check. And the grant request amount today is £15,900. So that translates into an intervention rate of 38%. So today, members, we are asking you to decide whether to approve, defer, or reject the application. In case of an approval, to agree the grant award amount and any conditions of funding they would wish to attach over and above the technical conditions that we will attach arising from the technical assessment. So I'll hand back over to you, Chair, for any questions.
Okay, thanks, Marianne. Yeah, I'm certainly in favour. Rudy?
Yeah, thanks, Marianne. Thanks, Chair. I'm actually not in favour of this project. I think looking at the funding for it, you know, we're expected to be paying over a third of the management and supervision costs, as well as the contingency. And I think that while this is ring fenced restricted funds for us to spend, I think it's better to spend it on local sort of community organisations. I know the John Muir Trust is a rather large organisation, has a lot of resources available, and I think looking at what we done with places like the Store, where we installed toilets, we used the car parking income to finance things like that. I think organisations like the John Muir Trust do need to look at what other sources of funding they've got available rather than coming to us. I think there's a lot of other organisations in our community, small organisations that don't have the same levels of capital and resources available as some of these larger national charities, and I would certainly encourage the smaller ones to come forward to us, because that's where previously I think that we've seen the most impact from the resources that we've got. So it's a no from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Munro.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, well, I approve this. I don't have any reason not to. I think obviously the impact of the tourism on our island is massive, and this is one other resource we can help provide. And again, I think what has been the mantra since I can remember, Chair, is partnership working and working collaboratively. So I would say this is a good use of funds, and I support this. Thanks.
Councillor Miller.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this. I think it's, as Councillor Munro just said there, it's about helping the John Muir Trust to cope with this influx of tourists. It's going to be an asset to the community, to people who are using the facility there, going walking, etc. So happy to approve it.
Okay, so Marianne, given that Councillor Stewart isn't inclined to approve, 3 members are inclined to approve. So given that, we approve the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Okay, members, moving on to item 8, the Portree High School ASG overview. We've got Mary MacDonald with us, who's the Area Education Manager for the West. So Mary, over to you for a brief introduction.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is the latest information we have for all the schools within the Portree High Associated School Group. I'll just briefly go through some of the sections in the report, and then I'll be happy to take questions, Chair. I would just like to point out, first of all, in section 4.2, the standards and quality reports. These are generally school self-evaluation, which are submitted at the end of each school year. So the quality indicators that are at the top of the chart there, the leadership of change, learning, teaching, assessment, wellbeing, equality and inclusion, raising attainment and achievement. In the table, I would say probably apart from Dunvegan, which had recently been inspected when the standards and quality reports were submitted, these are the school's own self-evaluation based on work that they have done during the school year. So that's just to point that out. It's the same for the ELC, the early years settings. Again, those 4 quality indicators on the following page are the school's own assessments as to where they are. Moving on to the Education Scotland inspection reports. Obviously, since this information was put together, we've had an inspection in Broadford Primary School. Dunvegan has just recently had a re-inspection, but that report has yet to be published. Eden Bain has also had an inspection which has been published and is in the public domain. And as is, well, we can see that Portree was in 2024. So that was just a wee update for you with regard to those. We then look at our school roles, attendance, absence and exclusions for session 22-23 for both the primaries and our secondary school. Could I just point out that in table 7.1, we have some schools which we would expect to have some figures for. For example, Broadford Primary and Bunscall Gaelic Portree. this is information that's in the public domain that's been published by Scottish Government on the Primary School Information Dashboard. So should members, want to get some figures that we would include Broadford and Buskell, Gaelic, Portree, then perhaps at our ward business meeting I could present those figures. But just to clarify that that's from the Scottish Government's Primary School Information Dashboard, and I could also send a link to members should they wish to have that. I should also point out that in 7.2, when we're looking at our secondary school attainment, although it says year 2022, it should say year 2022-23. So apologies for that, just to give some clarification there, that it's the school session 22-23, 21-22 and 20-21. I think when we look at section 7.6 and the destination of pupils, I think for Portree High School, there's some interesting figures attached to the employment. As we can see, there's been a growth from 2021 to 22-23 from 50.5% to 62.22%. And what the high school has recently found is that a number of students are delaying going off to university or college for a year and taking up employment in our hospitality sector in the area, so they're getting some money behind them and delaying their going off to university just for the year. For example, for the current 6th year at Portree High School, there's 41 applications from the 52 S6 pupils for UCAS, but over half of the students have selected deferred entry until 2026. And I think this is makes us quite different to other areas within Highland. There's also been a larger number of apprenticeship opportunities in the area from CalMac, SSE, Maui, Chartered Accountancy, local garages and trades, and many of the pupils are now taking that route, as well as the school having a positive relationship with the Delivering the Young workforce and opportunities that are tailored to our young people to give them experience of careers local to Skye. And I think that's important when we're thinking about our sustainable communities as well, that the school is working closely with local employers. So obviously then we go into our school roles as well, and the forecasts for that in the appendix. So Chair, I'm happy to take any questions from members. I'm giving a bit of a brief background to some of the information in the report.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Again, if you just mind, maybe can I go first, please? So looking at the standards and quality reports, obviously, as you've articulated, they're the evaluations of the individual schools themselves, referring to Higgius 4, the self-evaluation tool. So my question would be, how do we evaluate how accurate the individual schools' evaluations are, and how do we engage to make sure that that these apart from inspection by HMIE, that these gradings do reflect basically what's going on in our schools. In terms of the information that you missed that wasn't available, that's that you said you could send us a link to, I think maybe we need to feed back to the officers creating these profiles, that maybe they make sure that they do include all the information, accurately taking account of the schools that can have reports. And of course, for me, the most concerning aspect of this is the school roll, looking at our current school roll capacities, but also the projected school roll capacities and a projected school roll for certain areas. When we look at example for Kilmuir, we're looking at 12% capacity in 27-28. So I suppose when we talk about depopulation and we talk about school roll, I think we're all concerned about that. And it's maybe something we need to discuss further, maybe not necessarily only with yourself, Mary, but with other officers and other services, because it does generally predict quite a worrying trend. Okay, I'll go to Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm not going to repeat what you said. I think that would be interesting to get comments from Mary on the points that you made. I just wondered, just looking at some of the tables, Mary, that which did confuse me a little bit, but then maybe it's these things happen nowadays. I just wondered about the for example, the references to Knockbreck, given that the school is mothballed. For example, why is the website down as under construction when the school is mothballed? And why does it appear in all the various tables as the pupils, I understand, attend in Megan? So are these figures, are they not irrelevant given the fact that you've already got the statistics for Megan on the list? And under 7.1, why are the figures, well, you've explained, I suppose, why the figures aren't shown and are down as C, while for example, the Portree primary school with a smaller role than Boonskull Gaelic Portree has the percentage shown. So I just didn't understand that, but I think you obviously just touched on that yourself in your introduction. And then just going on to the page 61, just the reference to, sorry, I'm just looking it up here. Yeah, the reference on page 61 of the Boonskull Gaelic Portree, the figures in red for 24, 25, 25, 26, and 26, 27. Obviously, that's going to be, understanding is that's higher than expected, but just the meaning of the red, or does it mean that perhaps there's a cap on pupils being admitted to the school because of the high numbers? I just wanted an explanation for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Munro.
Thanks, Chair. No, just a couple of points. I think obviously the appendix and school rules, the aggregate fall is sobering and it's concerning. Seeing that 4 or 5 schools are actually backing a trend, which is positive, and it'd be good to delve into this and see what we can do to be supporting our communities. And of course, it's a whole depopulation agenda, which we touched on, and item 4, I think it was. Mary, thank you too for the context around the destination of school leavers. That's really interesting, and we might have quite a unique situation in this ward, but thanks, Mary. Thanks for the report.
And Councillor Stewart.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mary. I think there is some good news in here, and I think the positive destinations Councillor Munro and Finlayson have said is very interesting, especially given we've got such a low level of unemployment here in Skye. You know, that's really good to see that our young people are going on to something positive after school. However, the one area of concern for me is the attainment gap. You know, if you look at our bottom 20%, they're doing significantly less well than even at the Highland average and Scotland as well. So I would welcome your thoughts on what we can do to improve that, to make sure that there's equity between our most and least deprived pupils, because we want to see that everybody's doing as well as that they can, and if possible, we want to be working towards closing that attainment gap. Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Mary.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just taking your points, first of all, in relation to the standards and quality reports, our collaborative lead officers, Kirsty Clark and Kerry Young, work very closely with our schools, and it's through their evaluation and visits to the schools, working with the head teachers, classroom visits as well, which they take part in, that's where we would expect the authority to be looking at that quality assurance as well, to make sure it's matching with what the schools have put themselves up against. And they work very closely with the schools pre-inspection, where you would be putting together a scoping paper, and the collaborative lead officer works closely with the head teacher on that. So sometimes we find, Chair, that where a school has given themselves a grading, when the collaborative lead officer has worked with them and actually been in and looking at the work that's been done, sometimes those grades can change, and it's particularly in preparation for Education Scotland visits. Looking at Knockbreck, Councillor Miller, yes, I think we can see that For 24-25, Knockbrek has come out of the school rolls. Obviously for the attendance absence exclusions, that was for 22-23, where we would still have had some information. I think it was at Easter last year, Easter 23, that Knockbrek mothballed and the pupils went to Dunvegan and some also went to Portree primary school. So I would expect there would still be some information for years before or until the end of session 22-23, Councillor Miller, for Knockbrek. But you're right, I would check that. I wouldn't imagine the website is still under construction for Knockbrek. The Gaelic Primary School in Portree, where we have capacity, where we get above 90%, then it's highlighted in red so that it's drawing officers' attention that this is something we would need to be considering. Do we need to be looking at how the classrooms are configured, extra space that's within the premises? Although I see that moving forward, we start to drop again below the 90% from 27-28, and although predictions, my understanding is that officers have already had this drawn to their attention and looking at what can be done, particularly for the early years school as well, where we're having to look at other accommodation within the building to try and accommodate parental requests for the early years there. Councillor Monroe, yeah, the school roles. I think in some of our smaller schools, sometimes it can only take one family to come in, and that affects even the staffing numbers within the schools as well, whether we have 2 teachers or the 1.5 FTE. So we're always looking very closely at staffing impact as well on the school role forecasts. And Councillor Stewart, thank you for the attainment is obviously a priority, and that gap between the lowest 20% and those who go into very successful employment. And again, I think it's, as has been said in previous reports today, that it's working with partners, and I think that developing the young workforce is a crucial aspect of that, and looking out to see what other agencies are available to really engage our young people. Looking at the college sector as well, I think, is really important, and seeing what UHI can offer in terms of college courses and vocational experiences for our young people to ensure that they're engaged as much as possible and achieving successfully. I think it's also important to recognise that sometimes achievement isn't just in terms of national qualifications, which are probably represented in this table, but positive destinations can include a number of successes, and I think it's really important that I as well work with the school in trying to develop those, Councillor Stewart, and making as much success as possible, but looking at achievement in a much wider kind of viewpoint rather than just national qualifications. I hope, Chair, I've answered all the questions that have come up.
Yeah, thank you
in terms
very
of the
much.
report.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Marion. Thank you for that feedback. Getting back to the whole issue around about self-evaluation, it might be interesting, maybe not necessarily a local, but it might be quite interesting to carry out some kind of a look at where schools are with their own self-evaluation and compare that maybe to inspection results and see, have we got, the real close agreement that we should be having, because given that we have got Higgies 4, and in terms of closing the attainment gap, as Councillor Stewart said, that has to be a priority. But also, as you said, we've got a cohort of young people who academic attainment was never going to be the goal for them or the ambition for them, and we need to make sure that the curriculum we're offering is broad enough to make sure that we are allowing certain young people to achieve maybe in different areas of education and skills. So I think we all agree that the report has given us information, and we thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Bye for now.
Okay. Okay, members, we're getting there. A housing performance report. I think we've got Ewan Marsh with us. Is that right? Okay,
Morning,
Ewan,
Chair,
we haven't met you before, so nice to meet you. Who is it you've taken on from? You're the new Mr. Sharp, are you?
Yes, the new Colin Sharp. Big boots to fill.
Certainly. As long as you're just as idiosyncratic, that'll do us.
That's fine. I'll be doing my best, Chair.
Okay, over to you.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. So thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. As we've said, good to see you and some of you for the first time in my relatively new role. So I'm happy to present an overview of the report for housing repairs performance. Members are asked to note the housing performance report from the 1st of April to the 31st of December 2024, which is up to the end of Q3. Looking at the report in section 6, we're having a look here at the average time taken to complete the different types of repairs that we fulfill in housing. So emergency repairs is first. If we look at section 6.2, this is the average length of time taken to complete an emergency repair, and this is calculated in hours, members. So table 1, it confirms that the council's target is 12 hours for us to make that initial emergency job card, and the Scottish Housing Network is 4 hours. So for clarity, this is the time measurement of repairs to initially make safe an issue, with follow-on repairs after if we have to buy components, etc. So Q3 emergency performance, it continues to be within target of 12 hours, currently at 9 hours. But members, I do appreciate that there is some apparent slippage here, but I can confirm that after analysing the data that makes up this report, we have 2 work orders that have skewed the figures, unfortunately. For information, if I was to remove those 2 work orders from our calculations, our average performance would be 4.6 hours. I feel it's important to note that for your attention. We continue to work with our subcontractors to ensure that they perform and report according to our required processes. Moving on to table 2. This is the average length of time for non-emergency repairs, and this is measured in working days. So the Highland Council target is 8.9 days, and the Scottish Housing Network is 9 days. Our performance within the ward continues to be strong at 5.6 days. Moving on to table 3. This should ideally be referred to as void management, members. It's not just about the tenants themselves, it's the whole void process. So it's a measurement of days for the whole process. So that involves receiving the keys from the outgoing tenants, inspecting the property, carrying out the void repairs work, and then obviously signing up the new tenants. That's all embroiled in the void management process. So members, the target is actually 35 days. I offer an apologies here that it's been marked as 55.6, so that will be amended. So the council's target is 35 days and the Scottish Housing Network is 56.7 days. We are reporting continued strong performance at 27.81 days, which is much better as well than the Highland average, you'll note. Moving on to table 4 at 8.3 of the report, this is a capital investment summary. Now, members, I should just clarify that this is a 5-year programme for capital investment. This does allow for some acceleration or underspend, despite the summary for you today being year specific. Bear in mind that some underspends can be carried forward into the next financial year for projects or reactive one-off upgrades. So the spend there is itemised for members, but I'll highlight that the doors and windows, you'll note that there's no specific budget for building maintenance, but that's because it was amalgamated into the project managed energy efficient works. There was a doors and windows contract and a heating contract, and there were some properties in Uig and Portree that formed part of that. And finally, environmental capital. We actually have an updated spend, more so than when this was produced. We have £20,000 spent on environmental improvements in Ward 10. And the local team have projects that they've confirmed to me, and they've been in touch with yourselves to discuss that. But we're happy to discuss that further at ward business, members, to get into the detail of some of those projects. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you, Ewan. I think that was pretty comprehensive, and I think you sort of summarised, where there might have been concerns, particularly around about the emergency repairs. And I suppose what really is interesting is the fact that, one or two projects, probably equally to do with Tennessee management, one or two can skew the figures, and I am aware certainly of some of the projects that have skewed figures in the past, because I know them quite well. No, I'm happy with what you've reported. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair, and nice to meet you. I hope we have a friendly and happy conversations over the next couple of years. You highlighted the voids. I think the figures are quite remarkable, but that's not, I hope, at the expense of, because we all know that people are desperate for accommodations, and I know in the past that some people have been just encouraged to take the house as it is, which sometimes wasn't very good. So are we confident that the figure that you're showing, which, as I said, is remarkable, is that we are giving the houses to new tenants in a presentable state, that we're not just there's the keys, get on with it because you're desperate. And can I just also congratulate you, I think, on the work that's been done in Portree, a lot of new windows being installed. Spoken to some of the tenants just in the last few days, and they're delighted with the work that's been carried out. So I have a question for you that it's maybe not relevant to this, but you may be coming back in future to our ward business meeting, and you'd be able to maybe answer it. So if I ask it today, if you can answer it today, all the better. A couple of tenants have said to me, delighted with the works, but they were under the impression these are for people in the Swedish, what we call the Swedish houses in Portree, and a couple of them saying that they were, because some of their neighbours who I think have bought the houses in the past have that sort of cladding installed on them. There was I believe some of the tenants said to me, well, we were expecting ours to be cladded as well, I believe as part of a council programme, but it hasn't been done. And now we've installed new windows. Does that mean that the cladding is not going to take place? Because I think, as you know, some of the Swedish houses, though they have had wood replaced fairly in the last few years, they probably could do with some sort of maybe better insulation, and the cladding, I'm told, does that. So I just wondered if you could answer that. But excellent report. Thank you.
Okay, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you're quite right that just a couple of work orders can skew the figures. And I had a look at the data. There was actually 160 work orders. So two, as I say, unfortunately skewed that for us. Councillor Miller, thank you for your points. We work on our void properties. We work to the council's empty home standard. That's our specification, which sets out. It's a document and guidance agreed by council. It sets out what the minimum standard for our properties should be for new tenancy to take up. We typically carry out a quality of works inspection at the end of works. Sometimes, depending on the state of the property when we receive it, we have to do a clean to make sure it's a safe environment for contractors to engage their works. That's not always, but sometimes. Then we carry out the works to the empty home standard, and then one of our officers carry out a quality of works to ensure it meets that. If we ever fail, then I'm happy for the team to go back and address that. But obviously, we would rather not get to that stage in the first place. But I can assure you that there is a process for us to ensure it meets the empty home standard quality. Regarding the windows in Portree, thank you for your feedback on that. I'll speak to our housing investment officer who oversees these larger scale contracts for us. Regarding the timber Swedish houses, I am familiar with the construction type. We have these dotted about Highland. In some areas, we have carried out cladding, energy efficient works. There's a project in East Rossshire at the moment where we're working closely with our energy team, who are energy and climate change team, to put funding bids in to try to secure funds to carry out full retrospective works. What I'll do, Councillor Miller, is I can't clarify, unfortunately, today that if these specific properties are earmarked, but I will speak to the housing investment officer. that's his bread and butter. I'll speak to Graham and see if we can give you any update on that specific question. And I'm sure we can attend future ward business meetings to provide more clarity on that.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands, Ewan, so thank you very much for that report. And as I say, nice to meet you. And we'll see you at future area business meetings and no doubt area committees. And if you see Mr. Sharp, pass on our regards to him.
I certainly will. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Okay, members, we're getting there. So on to item 10, a Portree Harbour update. And we've got Gary with us, who's going to give us a quick summary of the works that we've been anticipating at Portree Harbour for some while. Unfortunately, our luff bid, was it 2 years ago, Gary, was unsuccessful, but all the work we did to prepare for that application, I think, has been very valuable in terms of planning what we do next. So over to you, Gary.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair. The paper is to it's just for you to note the funding position and delivery programme for the works that we're planning for Portree Harbour. So the contents of the report are there. Since writing the report, there has been a slight change. The works were going to proceed by direct award through the SCAPE framework, which is a national framework. The contractor who we were discussing that with has in the meantime obtained or been awarded 3 major projects, nationally major projects, and they are now no longer in a position to go forward with the works itself. So it'll be a different contractor. But we have benefited from the early engagement that we've had from them during the preparation of the design and the planning for the repair works specifically to the piling and the steel work around the harbour. So the intention is to go forward with a conventional tendered contract using the same consultant and the same design, rather than a direct award to an individual contractor. But that's been the only change. Just a couple of things to highlight in the report. The report discusses the essential repairs, and we have budget for those essential repairs. The report also did identify other areas where we could spend money if we had it, but we're obviously working within the budget that we have. So they haven't identified any new work. So roughly speaking, half of the works will be half of the spending in terms of that project will be on the pile repairs and the pile wrapping and the repairs to the steelwork. And the remaining half is roughly speaking split into three sections. There's concrete deck repairs, there's slipway repairs, and there's walling repairs to take up the other half of the spending of that project. And you'll have read the language of the report. It's based on the essential works and the and non-essential works. The non-essential works aren't anything new. What it is doing more of what we have already. So it's that there are more extensive works that we could do to the slipways, and we could build in some new piling as opposed to piling repairs, and those there's a cost difference between them. So that's the split, if you like, between essential and non-essential. But the intention is to go ahead with the essential works and get a contractor on board to do that this year.
Okay, thanks, Gary. In terms of probably not the essential works as you've quoted there, but in terms of just day-to-day kind repairs, where are we with that? Because I can remember, that there were steps and we had scaffolding tubes basically as railings. We then had to close off the steps. Things that you would have assumed were pretty day-to-day routine maintenance stuff. So it's have we got a program for that kind of day-to-day ongoing maintenance, that'll be carried out throughout the year. And probably more importantly, and you might not have the answer to this, I'm now not aware of what the staffing regime is within our harbour. In terms, have we got a harbour master in Portree? Have we? I mean, I know that we've now got someone in Kyle. I believe some of the staff that were in Portree have retired. So it'd be quite good to understand who is it we should be speaking to, and I suppose, more importantly, who should harbour users now be speaking to when they've got these sort of low-level but still important day-to-day health and safety concerns.
Yeah, the from an operational point of view, those operational repairs are done by and commissioned by the local harbour master staff. As you know, what's happened within the reorganisation of the council is that there's one department and responsible for the infrastructure, and there's another for the operational. So you would have to speak to Tracy about the operational matters and who's. I know there has been some changes in staff in terms of that operational side. So
Okay,
you would have to speak to Tracy about that.
Okay, Councillor Mullen.
Thank you. Morning, afternoon, Gary.
Afternoon.
Yeah, obviously welcome the work. I mean, some of the pictures attached to the report look pretty horrific to me. So I think the essential that the work is done ASAP. The only thing, one of the things I read reading in the report, proportionate engagement will be carried out to ensure the local community groups are informed. I mean, I'm sure you're well aware of what it's like down in Portree Harbour, probably even from Easter onwards, especially, it is chaos down there, traffic, everything. So it would be good as local members and to know exactly what is going to be happening down there to control the traffic, to control pedestrians, etc. Because it's just horrific in the summertime. And I just wonder, is there possibilities maybe to restrict the traffic to, for example, to people who need to use the harbour for their work? I know there are hotels there, but maybe during the day, could traffic be restricted to essential users only? And just as regarding public safety, and I just wondered what extent is some of the work going to be carried out, say, in the next financial year? Would that affect any potential works that are going to be carried out as regarding the roads improvements down there? Because there were plans agreed by local members probably, I don't know, 18 months ago to try to improve some of the layout down at the harbour. So if you can't answer that today, I mean, it would be good to get an update either by email or our business meeting. Thanks.
Yeah, the works I'm talking about today are purely on the harbour infrastructure, not on the roads infrastructure. So I would have to comment on that separately. The constraints of Portree Harbour are known. It is going to be restrictive during the works. The contractor's traffic management plan will effectively the people that really need to be there to do their work and to carry out their business and the residents will get access, but generally speaking, all other access will have to be restricted as part of that, as part of the contract. So it is going to be difficult to get to match those needs within the contract, but you can't go ahead without doing some form of restriction during those works.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands up, Gary, so we'll move on directly to the next item, the Portree Link Road. We thank you for coming to our last meeting. So really, I think we agreed that there would be ongoing updates, and we were expecting, I think, maybe the contract to have been awarded. I think you said in February sometime. So you can maybe give us an update on where we are. And I know Councillor Miller's got particular interest in this one.
Yeah, what was the update for? I spoke to you back in November. The update for today is about what I said that we were going to do back in November. Have we done it? And the answer to that is yes. The drawings are now complete. I think when I wrote the report, I was and the ones that are in the report are draft drawings, but you can see the level of detail that we're into in terms of that design. So the design and detailing is finished. What we're doing now is finalising the contract document, and with a view to the tender being issued at the end of this month, and that's what we're on programme to do. That will then allow us to award the contract later this year. I think we're talking about an award in May for construction thereafter. We have had progress, significant progress on land. The land agreements are there. We're working through the licenses to occupy. So those have been agreed. There's 3 primary landowners for the scheme. So that progress has been made on that. So I think from a point of view of having the consents to go into the land and having the tender documentation ready, then we're there and we're on programme as to what I reported back in November.
Okay, Drew.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Chair. I welcome this sort of an update. It's a bit disappointing, I have to say, Gary, that we're still looking at another summer without this bypass in place. But then that's, if you can't do that, you can't do that. I mean, I know that we had a design something like 10 or 12 years ago that the design unit had worked on a design then, and it's just so frustrating to see again that the update is very okay. You're going to go for tender in the end of this month. So do you have a sort of a definite, or could you give us a clearer picture of when you would expect this road to be completed and opened up for public use? Because I think, hopefully there will be a community council in place within the next couple of months. There hasn't been one for a couple of years now, but the general public I do get conversations with people saying, you're just kidding us all, this road's never going to be done. So I know we're going out for tender. So do you have a projected time when the road would be in use, signage and everything in place on Viewfield Road, and from people coming down from the north as to what the routes should be? That would be very useful, because I know I'm going to be asked that probably at the first meeting of the new community council.
There's no reason why this road won't be completed by the end of this year, end of 2025. Okay. The award will be made in May, assuming that we get our tenders back the way that we think we are. But the award will be made in May, and that you've asked me to go direct on to construction. I think we talked back in November. We talked about delaying beyond the summer so that the contractor started much later in 2025. You asked me not to do that and to proceed with all pace. So we've based our tender documentations on going for construction as soon as we possibly can. So that will be, if it's awarded in May, it'll start on site in June, and it will run through the summer and be completed by Christmas.
Okay,
so that's a 6-month timescale for the project, you're saying, roughly, in your professional opinion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that's encouraging, Gary. Thank you. Councillor Monroe.
Thanks, Chair. Afternoon, Gary. Thanks for this. I think when I stood for the election in 2020, it was probably one of the key things I was interested in seeing delivered. And I know Councillor Miller, we'll go back now 30 years. We've mentioned this before, to his days in the Skye and Raasay. But anyway, it's important it goes ahead. The question I have, Gary, is in terms of interested contractors. Are we talking about a large number or 2 contractors? That'd be interesting to know.
The tender list will be 5 contractors.
Okay, thanks, Gary. And of course, we have got local intelligence on the island in terms of our own road staff. So I'm sure they'll be liaising with you, Gary. So I think even Councillor Miller's happy when he's hearing that after Christmas or this year he'll be out walking his dog or just walking on the new link road. So we appreciate, Gary, that update. And as always, I'm sure you'll expect us to come back and keep asking you questions in the interim period.
Yep. Okay. I can
Thank you.
come back
Thanks,
when
Gary.
we're ready to award. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, members, the next two items were not actually going to be taken today due to the unavailability and, dare I say, sickness of presenters. So the SARF item will come to the next area committee, as will the community payback service. The ward discretionary budget, that's there basically for noting that the award was made to Braes Village Hall for £1,500. And we've also got the minutes again for noting, which brings us to the end of our area committee. However, before we go, my understanding is that this could be Councillor Munro's last area committee. I thought he'd be more distressed looking than he is about leaving us. But on behalf of all the members on the committee and of course the constituents and the public across our ward, Callum, can I thank you for your contributions over the last 5 years. It's been a pleasure working with you. You've certainly always been open to conversations. You've always got an open mind and things. And I know that your engagement, particularly with community members, is strong. So although you're with us for a wee while longer, this is actually your last area committee. So I wish you well, although I'll be hopefully saying that to you over a large dram and a pint as well in the near future. But over to yourself, Callum.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I'm certainly not distressed today, but I do value the last 5 years as an elected member of Skye and Raasay, working with yourself, Councillor Mother, Councillor Stewart, and previous to that with Councillor Gordon, Councillor MacLeod. It's been an honour to do this role. I look forward to the next phase, whatever that's going to be. But I think principally yourself, Chair, you've been a strong voice for Skye and Raasay since you were elected, and you've led this committee well. And yes, we'll just get our diaries together and sort out that dram and the large beer, and then we'll be set. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Callum.
Okay,
Okay,
that invite includes other members as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so can I thank members and officers for all their contributions today? Again, I think there was lots of information there for us, but I think it's now lunchtime. So thank you all, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you, Chair.